Okay, everyone, I think we're going to start. It looks like we have everybody on, and I want to thank you all for being on with us today, and the media especially. I know we really have a great presence today, and I can't thank you enough for everything that you're doing for the families that have lost their loved ones. And I really appreciate having the opportunity to start the day with each and every one of you. Of course, I would have preferred to be preparing my questions for Commissioner Zucker for the health budget hearing, which should have been starting right now. But as you know, it's been delayed until February 25th. That's over 3 weeks from today. And frankly, I'm shocked that we even have to hold this event today. I've been going on about the COVID-19 deaths in our nursing homes and residential healthcare facilities since April of last year. I could never have imagined that the state could turn such a blind eye to an issue that so clearly impacts thousands of vulnerable New Yorkers. And I think everyone here knows I am no headline chaser. I don't do press conferences for the sake of holding press conferences, but this issue is too important. This administration and supermajority in the legislature that has enabled it has treated these vulnerable residents, the dedicated staff who care for them, and their loved ones as an afterthought from the start of this pandemic. Enough is enough. It shouldn't have taken a bombshell report from the state attorney general to wake Albany up. But now that it has, we can't afford to let this moment pass without taking real action. You know, news broke last night that even more powerful members of the Senate majority are throwing their support behind an investigation, but it's not enough just to talk about it. The reality is our colleagues in the majorities have all the power they need today to issue subpoenas and launch a full-fledged investigation into the state's handling of the COVID crisis in our nursing homes. If they're not going to take the steps necessary to do that immediately, then they're complicit in the cover-up. And I do not say that lightly. I understand everyone is busy, especially this time of year. So we went ahead and did the work for them. We've had a subpoena drafted, and if any of my colleagues in the Senate majority are really serious about issuing a subpoena and launching a thorough investigation, all they have to do is sign and send it. Like so many last week, I sat watching in horror as the governor, when given an opportunity to apologize to thousands of families who lost their loved ones, instead callously asked the question, who cares? Who cares where thousands of New Yorkers died? Yeah. We care. We care because real people, real New Yorkers are at the heart of that question. The answer to that question can inform policy, improve response, and ultimately save lives. And we cannot afford to wait another day. It's not about us, and it's not about politics. It's about the very real people who are impacted by the state's actions. They deserve answers, they deserve accountability, and they deserve a better path forward. And with that, I'll turn it over to famed meteorologist turned prophylactic victims advocate, Janice Dean.
Here.
Oops, good morning, Janice.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah.
First of all, sorry about the weather in upstate New York. I know it's cold and there's a lot of snow, so forgive me for that. Thank you, Senator Serino, Senator Ort, and the lawmakers that invited me here to speak. I am here on behalf of the thousands of New York families that deserve answers. We've been waiting for answers for almost a year now. And I've said this many times, it's not about politics. This is about doing the right thing. I've often mentioned when I am asked, I am not a political person. It's not about politics. We lost people on both sides of the aisle as a result of a state's terrible, tragic policy. And now we need people on both sides of the aisle to take an active role in getting justice. The Attorney General's report was a step in the right direction, but it confirms our fears. It's our worst fears. Not enough for us to sit and wait until the end of February and hope we get additional answers and hope. We've been hoping for months. We've been waiting long enough. Those with the power to do so must take immediate action to launch a full investigation using subpoena power to get answers that families like mine deserve. This is not going to go away because we're not going away. And Governor Cuomo, Who cares? Shame on you. We care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janice. Your heartfelt testimony it touches all of our hearts. So thank you. Right now, I'd like to ask Leader Ort to say a few words. Leader?
Hey, Senator Serino, I really don't have anything to add. I'm certainly not going to follow up the great Janice Dean because that's just not a position I want to be in, nor should anybody want to be in that position. But I just want to thank her, and I want to thank the families who never gave up hope during this process. We're really here in large part because of you and your efforts, because absent that, this would have all been chalked up to Albany noise and Albany politics, and the governor would have continued to play his game and obfuscate, and Commissioner Zucker would have continued to put forward bogus reports and whitewashing. But were it not for Janice and the families on social media, in the media, every day, calling their elected officials, demanding answers, that's why we're here today. So when people say it doesn't matter, why do you keep doing this? No one listens. They do. It does matter. It does matter. It's hard, and it shouldn't take this much effort, and it shouldn't be this difficult to get to the truth. But sometimes the best things in life, the things that are most necessary, are difficult. And I want to thank all of you for doing what you've done, because I think you've given hope to other families. You've given hope. There are lots of families out there who can't sit there and do what you've been doing. Janice has used her platform that she's privileged to have, and she's used it really to do great things. So I want to thank you, Janice, again for everything you're doing, even aside from the weather. I know we made that joke earlier, but you're doing a phenomenal job. I want to thank Senator Serino and Senator Tedisco, my whole conference. But Senator Serino has been on this from day one. She took this. She's the ranker on the aging committee. This was a very important issue to her. And before any Senate leadership on the majority, before the governor, before Howard Zucker, she was out there calling for answers. Senator Jim Tedisco was out there calling for answers. They were working across the aisle, and they've both done this with, in the spotlight and outside the spotlight. I can tell you when the doors are closed here in Albany, they are asking the same questions. They are having the same conversations when the cameras are not on them. And that's the sign of good people and good leaders. So I want to thank Senator Serino. I want to thank Senator Tedisco and my entire conference. And again, Janice and the families, thank you for being here. And we will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you. We will get the answers. We will get the truth, and we will hold people accountable. And we will also make sure we're making different choices going forward so we don't repeat the same mistakes. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Leader Ort. I appreciate your kind words. And now I would like to introduce Assemblyman Will Barkley. He's the Republican conference leader in the Assembly. Thank you, Assemblyman.
Thank you, Senator. It's great to be here. I have to follow the great leader Rob Ort, who followed the great Janice Dean. But yeah, I just want to echo what Leader Ort said. Thank everybody being here. Janice Dean, thank you for your leadership. You've done a great job. Let's keep pounding this drum. That's what we got to do. Keep pounding this drum. It's unforgivable that the governor has not been, answering our questions on this. And the only way we're going to get it is get the majorities to have these hearings and have them with subpoena power so we can get the information from the second floor. So I appreciate Senator Serino, Leader Ort, the Republican conference in the Senate. Obviously, we've been banging the drum here in the Republican conference in the Assembly. And I just want to introduce Kevin Byrne, who has been leading the charge for us here in the Assembly. So Kevin, can I pass it to you?
Thank you, Leader, and thank you for all your support and leadership behind every action that I have taken and our colleagues have taken to try to get real answers for the families who lost loved ones. Just to reiterate again what Senator Serino, my colleague just a little bit to the north of me, said, why we're here. We were here today with the plan of listening to Dr. Zucker and following up with him during the budget hearings. And until that was switched to later in the month, February 25th, we had to make some adjustments. A lot of information's changed. The AG's report came out. But during those budget hearings, there's a lot of different things we need to ask. But one of the things was to follow up on those forums and hearings that we had all the way back in August, where we demanded information on a full, complete count of the fatalities that occurred from getting COVID-19 in nursing homes and the consequences of the actions of this governor's administration and his Department of Health. Since then, we've had multiple bipartisan hearings and forums. Many of us have written to the CDC. We've written to President Trump. We've worked together in a bipartisan manner with colleagues in the Assembly, namely Assemblyman Ron Kim, writing to President Biden to try to get answers. Members of both houses have introduced bipartisan state legislation for an independent investigation with subpoena powers, but we're not done yet. You know, many of us advocates, legislators have been branded and labeled by the governor and his administration and his surrogates as, quote, ugly and, quote, political. The AG's report went over many different things, including the state and federal response into COVID-19 in our nursing homes. But one of the most significant things that it did was it validated our concerns that we've been voicing for many, many months. Now it's time to act. We have a legislative call to action in response to the AG's report, as mentioned by Leader Barclay. We've petitioned various committees in the Assembly for hearings for the purpose of exercising our legislative subpoena powers to mandate that the DOH and the Cuomo administration provide all information that we're seeking regarding the complete nursing home data, communications from the Department of Health, Governor's Office, and other parties involved that led to controversial state directives like on March 25th, and anything else that's pertaining to the spread of this virus in our nursing homes. We support a bipartisan effort for investigations and also support an expansion of the federal investigation. You know, this has been a virus that has plagued every state across the country, not just New York. The federal government has an obligation here. DOJ has said they were investigating. That investigation, as it was initially announced and reported, was more narrow in scope to publicly run facilities. That should be expanded. And I think the AG's report only strengthens that call to expand that investigation. Again, we're here today because we wanted to question the health commissioner. And one of the things I said early on in those forums back in August was that we were not done listening to the victims. And since we cannot hear from the commissioner today, we thought it was appropriate to hear from some of the families who lost loved ones and hear from them and kind of follow through on that promise that we were not done listening. I don't have the privilege of knowing the Lizzie family directly, but I have a little bit of information I wanted to share as I introduce Cindy, Lizzie, and her brothers, Ted and Phil. They lost their mother, Agnes, to COVID-19 in April of 2020. And because of the governor's restrictions on nursing home visitations, they were not allowed to visit their mother for more than a month before she passed away. Agnes was a resident of the Teresian house up in Albany, but was transferred to a hospital to be treated for COVID-19. Ted also lost his father-in-law under similar circumstances. And with that, I just want to introduce this family. Cindy, you know, our heart goes out to you, your family, your loved ones. So many of us lost people we care deeply about. We're robbed of the opportunity to have a proper funeral and say goodbye the way we wanted to. We're all seeking answers, and I'll turn this over to you. And just thank you for your courage, your passion to be with us here this morning. Thank you. Cindy?
I think you have to unmute.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Mike Frazier, thank you so much for contacting me and giving us this opportunity to speak. I'll start with, we'll let my brother Phil and Ted speak as well. You basically said exactly what happened, and we felt totally out of control, and we felt like no one was listening to us, including the nursing home. They were extremely uncooperative in the beginning to communicate with us, and thank you for listening to us now. Thank you.
We initially, when we were asked initially to leave the nursing home, we understood the severity of COVID-19, and we understood that. We were told it was going to be maybe 2 weeks initially. We didn't understand afterwards why they weren't taking proper precautions in the nursing home. I mean, they come from the outside, as we did, and they were not taking the proper precautions at that time. They were not given a directive, apparently, or whatever the reason was. When I heard about the allowing COVID-19 patients back into nursing homes, we heard that on the 3rd floor of the Teresian House, that they were preparing for that, to allow COVID-19 patients in the nursing homes. So I contacted Jim Cameron, who's the CEO of Teresian, and I asked him if that was true, that they were going to bring him back in. He said, "Oh, no." He said, only if they get COVID within the nursing home itself. I found out, and then I wasn't too pleased with the answer. I was suspicious of the answer. So I called Dan McCoy, the county executive, Albany County executive, and I asked him also the same question. And he said, yeah, they're allowed to bring COVID patients back inside into nursing homes from the outside, and that there was apparently there was money involved in the whole situation, which I thought was unconscionable. It almost sounds like a Judas type of reaction. And then I was concerned, so I contacted the bishop's office, Albany Bishop's office, and a couple times, and I got a call back from Father Lafort, who was the vicar from the Diocese of Albany, and he was in a condescending way. He said to me, you must trust in the Lord. And I said, Father, I said, I trust in the Lord, but I don't trust in people. And I was very concerned for my mom. We were all concerned for our mom. We love her. We were there every single day. We visited her every single day. It was a pleasure because our mom was everything to us, as was our dad. And she, for until the time that she got COVID, we were unable really to contact her. Occasionally we were able to teleconference, but for 1 or 2 times, and that was it. And we were very concerned that because you have to advocate for your loved ones in a nursing home, and not being there, we were unable to advocate for our mom. And that concerned us. Not that some of the nurses and staff were not good people. We're not saying that. But, people just, unless you're there all the time, unless you advocate for your loved ones, you really can't appreciate that they can't get the proper care, I think, that we were able to help out with. And then we found out that our mom, previous to the 20th of April, was sick, and they didn't know for sure what it was because she was never tested. So, but she had the symptoms of the COVID. So what we did was we were in constant contact with the administration, Jim Cameron, and Mary Grace Cahill, who was the head of nursing at Teresian, who was not
transparent.
She was not transparent at all. You're right. She was not transparent. She didn't allow us to she didn't give us answers that we wanted to get. And then there was also a Mary Jean who was with Optum, which is the health provider for United Healthcare. She was helpful. She said that they were going to send our mom, because they could not take care of her in Teresian, they were going to send her to St. Peter's Hospital, which they did on the night of the 20th of April. We were very obviously very concerned. We didn't know what it was, so we actually went to the St. Peter's Hospital, and they allowed us, my brother and I, into the hospital to visit our mom. And we were told that she did test positive for COVID, and that we mentioned hydroxychloroquine that we had thought would help because we heard so many good things about it, but apparently it was too far gone. And
She had bilateral pneumonia.
She had pneumonia, and she was very, 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 very sick. And that was on the night of the 20th. We then contacted the hospital several times, and we were told that she was going into hospice care. And on the 21st, the night of the 21st, the morning of the 22nd, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from St. Peter's Hospital that our mother had passed. And it was, even to this day, it's heart-wrenching to think of our mom. And then to hear the response of our governor, our leader, so-called, the emperor of Albany, to hear his response, well, they're gonna die anyway, it's God's fault, and so on and so forth, was so awful and
Incompassionate.
no compassion whatsoever for any of the loved ones, you know? And then the other day I hear him mention his father, and I said, what does that have to do, his father died, what does that have to do with what's going on now? What's going on now here in Albany, in this state? It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And that's the story that I know my brother Ted lost his father-in-law also to the same, the same disease. So I'll let my brother talk also.
Thank you, all of you, for doing what you're doing. This is so important. We have to get to the bottom of it. We have to make those who made those bad decisions pay for what they're doing. We lost our loved ones. 2 weeks after my mom passed, I lost my father-in-law. He was also at the Teresian house, and it's just a nightmare. But again, please continue doing what you're doing. We will be here if you need us for anything to get to the bottom of this. Thank you very much.
We completely support you. Thank you so much for doing this. And it is a nonpartisan. This is nonpartisan.
Nothing to do with politics.
It should never be politics. And if someone makes a mistake, you owe up to the mistake.
Own up to it. That's all.
Plain and simple.
That's all we're asking.
Be responsible for the choices that you make.
And protect the people that are still in nursing homes.
In the very beginning, this was, the most concerned group.
Yep.
We have to protect them.
The Matilda law.
Yeah, and they just did not do that. And we couldn't do anything. Our hands were tied. We contacted, when we heard about them allowing COVID patients back into nursing homes, we contacted the Attorney General's office. We had a phone interview with them. And this was before we lost our mom. And so we were concerned at that point. We knew something bad was going to happen. But, and unfortunately it did. So thank you so much. And please keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question? The Attorney General, what kind of response has it been from her? Because we all contacted the Attorney General's office back in, I think it was in April, May. And I talked to an Assistant Attorney General from Columbia County. And then I talked to an investigator from the Attorney General's office. And I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything at all. I haven't heard anything at all from their office at all.
I know the AG's report does reference ongoing investigations. I'm not sure if that helps answer your question. I mean, I'm not with the Office of the Attorney General, but the report does cite that there's additional investigations that are ongoing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm sorry, we haven't heard. So I'm going to move on to Senator Tedisco, but I want to say to Cindy, Phil, and Ted, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry for your losses, but thank you. It's really important that you guys are here today and telling your story. And like you said, this is not about politics. Our loved ones don't wear an R or a D, right? So
Right.
Right.
That's correct.
thank you.
Right.
Thank
We'll
you.
go to Senator Tedisco now.
Thanks, Sue. Senator Serino. This, first of all, let me thank Cindy and the Lizzie family for turning your personal tragedy into something so positive. It takes a lot of effort and courage in a tragedy like this to speak up and help the other families across the state. And I think that's why Senator Serrano, Senator Romero, Assemblyman Byrne, our leaders are so significantly involved, and we're not going to stop like Janice Dean, she's our leader, until we get a full investigation. Not just the numbers, but the metrics and the data that lead to an understanding of what the governor called a wildfire through dry grass. That he, for the most part, had taken a part in. So we thank you very much for that. In terms of the governor, excuse me, in terms of the governor, there are those who say he's a pretty good wordsmith. He's a pretty good communicator. And I guess to be a good communicator, you've got to be a good actor. And maybe that's why he got an Emmy from Hollywood for his communication skills, for his acting. I know there's one area that he should never get an Emmy from, and that's transparency. Because this has been 6 to 7 months of a total cover up. And I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, the cover up is always worse than what you're attempting to cover up. And as a bright guy, he should have understood that. But he continues to do so. And as you know, last Thursday, you asked about the AG. Well, AG James really tore the veil of secrecy back and showed potentially coming pretty close, I think. We still have more to learn. What the real numbers were for those who lost their lives in a nursing home and also got sick in a nursing home, very sick, had to go to a hospital and passed away. Basically, she gave us an important part of the puzzle that was missing. 3,500 to 4,000 individuals who got so sick they had to go to a hospital and passed away there. And the fact of the matter is, hospitals didn't lose these people's lives. They saved lives. The lives were lost because they got that contagion in a nursing home for the most part. We're talking about now what has been evaluated as a 50% underreporting of lost life. That is unbelievable. That's dramatic. It's totally unacceptable. And she has illustrated that where individuals die does matter. You know, the governor did say, what does it matter where they died? They died. Well, he knows better than everybody why it matters, because it truly matters to him, because he wouldn't have denied us those numbers, and Commissioner Zucker wouldn't have denied those numbers unless it mattered to him to protect his well-being in terms of blame. Now, he's gone through contortions, as you know, with that March executive direction to say, hey, we can't discriminate against those who have COVID. We have to put them into a nursing home with individuals that may be compromised, but probably would be alive today if they didn't intermingle with those individuals who were put in there with COVID. And I think there's other evaluators to look at, the staffing levels, those who travel to other nursing homes. But the fact of the matter, that made a dramatic difference in the loss of life. Now he's gotten to a point, after blaming the CDC, after blaming the federal government, after blaming the president of the United States, after blaming the workers, he's gotten to a point now where he's saying, if you died in a nursing home, it's a nursing home death. If you died in a hospital, it's a hospital death. Well, we know there's a big difference from what he's trying to put forth to us. The purpose and importance of understanding who died in a hospital is not that they lost their lives in hospitals. The hospitals didn't destroy their lives. It was where the contagion was generated, and that was in the nursing homes. And now we know 35 to 4,000 were not added to that investigation that Commissioner Zucker did to suggest, well, the peak of all those lost lives was before that March executive order to put those individuals in there. Well, we don't know that because we never got the date at the time where these individuals who were in hospitals lost their lives. And we don't know when they got the contagion. So we have to drill down. We still have to get the full numbers, but it's more than the numbers. It's all the surrounding issues that cause the loss of our most vulnerable populations. And I think you have to look at it this way. When the governor gives a definition, we're going to categorize nursing home deaths in nursing homes as taken place there. But we have to categorize the deaths of those in hospitals as hospital deaths. Under that definition, if someone in a nursing home gets so sick with COVID, they have to leave and go to a hospital, and an ambulance picks them up and is 2 minutes down the road, and that individual dies of COVID in the ambulance, according to the governor's definition, that's an ambulance death because they didn't die in a nursing home. They didn't die in a hospital, but we know that death in the ambulance was caused by the contagion in the nursing home. That death in the hospitals, the close to 4,000, was caused by the contagion in the nursing home. And for 6 months, Senator Serino, myself, Senator Romero, many of our colleagues, Assemblyman Byrne, our leaders have been begging, have been asking for those numbers from Commissioner Zucker, from those three leaders of those important Senate committees, the Health, the Aging, the Investigative Committee. We're heartened by the fact that Senator Skoukis has said, I'm going to use those subpoenas if he doesn't come forth and is forthcoming. Well, he's not only got to give us those numbers that he has, Commissioner Zucker, he's got to give us all the data surrounding that and what these orders actually meant and what the staffing meant and what those who may not have sanitary conditions. We want to look at the whole thing, a holistic evaluation. And the fact of the matter is, there's foils out there to get this information. There's lawsuits out there to get the information. Senator Serino and I sent direct messages to those three leaders saying it's time to use subpoena power back in September. He's not giving you the information. He blew by the deadline. You asked him to give 27 answers to questions, plus those numbers. And now it's time for subpoenas. Well, it's been 6 months. And the irony, miraculously, Commissioner Zucker has come out with the numbers. Coincidentally, on the same day last Thursday that the Attorney General came out with the numbers and said it's close to 13,000 individuals who lost their lives and close to 4,000 who lost them in hospitals coming out of a nursing home with the contagion. That tells us they had the numbers for a long period of time. They were just holding it back. And it's a cover-up, which is always worse than what you're trying to cover up. What we're asking now is for the majority members, the levers of strength in the Senate, the Assembly. The governor is a progressive Democrat. They're from one affiliation and one majority in both houses. We're asking them to use their subpoena power. If we could, we would have done it yesterday to get these answers. We don't have that power. We're not on those committees. We're not in the majority, but we're asking them to do that. Why are we asking them to do that? Because we don't want to see our most vulnerable population continue to go through what they've gone through in the past. We need the answers and we need closure for individuals like Cindy, your family, and your brothers in the Lizzie family. And lastly, I'll say this about the governor. I know he's embarrassed now by these numbers. I know he's embarrassed that he hid all this information. I know that this may damage, and he thinks so, his reputation on how well he did with this COVID virus. I don't think they'll take back his Emmy. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't rise above getting these answers so we can better protect our most vulnerable population. So with your help, with all the leadership we had today, and I want to thank the leaders, Leader Barkley and Leader Oak, for supporting Serena, myself, Senator Romero, Assemblyman Byrne, to give us the opportunity to go out there and go after these issues. And I'm just very hopeful with the support of somebody who's just an unbelievable, dedicated person, Janice Dean, who I think she's done more for this effort than anybody in maybe the world, to say, this is wrong. We cannot let this stand. We have to find out. We have to drill down. We have to really know what went wrong and get the truth. And if this doesn't rise above politics, I don't know what does rise above politics. Because if Senator Skoufis won't use those subpoenas, then he's got to help pass the bill that's in the Senate and the Assembly that Senator Serino, Romero, myself, I think Assemblyman Byrne may be on it with Assemblyman Ron Kim. And this shows why it's nonpartisan, a Democrat in the majority with several other Democrats on the bill, for an outside, independent, bipartisan commission with individuals who have subpoena power. If he doesn't want to do that, then they've got to do their own bill for an investigation, for an outside, independent group of individuals on a commission who have subpoena power. One of those three things has to happen, because I know Janice Dean isn't going away. I know we're not going away. I know our leadership's not going away. And there's a lot of Democrats and Republicans aren't going away. The only thing we're concerned about now is if those subpoenas aren't used, it really looks like a cover up for Governor Cuomo. And he's covered it up enough as it is right now. We got to drill down and get the right answers. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Senator Tedisco. And I'm going to introduce Senator Tom O'Mara, who is the committee ranking member for Senate Investigations and Government Operations, who really struck a nerve this week by trying to do the right thing by calling on the Investigations Committee to move forward with the subpoena. Thank you, Senator O'Mara.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you for everybody for participating on here today. There's one thing that we have highlighted and that we are clear on this week. We will not be muted. We moved in the Investigations Committee to issue a subpoena to get these records that have been sought for months. The Empire Center, a good government group in New York State, has sought these records through FOIL requests that have been stonewalled by Governor Cuomo for months. We will not be muted in our request to get to the bottom of what the real numbers are and what the real devastation that was wrought by the fateful March 25th directive of Governor Cuomo. A March 25th directive that required nursing homes to accept COVID positive patients, that did not allow those nursing homes the ability to even test those patients coming in from hospitals for COVID. How is a nursing home supposed to determine whether to separate and cohort patients in a nursing home between the positive patients and the negative patients if that test isn't done before that is completed? The very next day after the March 25th directive, the American Medical Directors Association, the Society for Long-Term Care Providers in this country, came out with a statement saying that they were concerned about that order, that the order was not based in science, had no medical basis, and was dangerous. Yet the governor proceeded under that order for another 45 days, sending fire into dry grass. And that's exactly what we had. Now we have an Attorney General's report that comes out with a 50% increase in findings. Still no determination from that Attorney General on whether and what impact that March 25th directive had in the increasing of those fatalities of our nursing home residents. You know, we sit here today with the advocacy of Janice Dean, with the advocacy of Cindy Lizzie and her brothers Phil and Ted, on the loss of your loved ones. We are here to stand with you today to not be muted in our search for the truth, to get to the bottom of what happened. One thing we know from Attorney General James's report, that those numbers are at a minimum 50% greater than they were. And her report is based on a sampling of nursing homes. It is not the complete picture. We deserve the complete picture. Janice Dean and Cindy Lizzie deserve the complete picture. You know, now we have been silenced in our Senate Investigations Committee by a chairman who, based on his position, has the authority to issue a subpoena on his own initiative. Under the legislative laws of New York State, I brought a motion before that committee to seek a majority of the members of that committee to issue such a subpoena that the chair of the committee has spoke about for months and threatening to use, yet has not done so. And the response was to make up a rule that doesn't exist, that motion needed to be in writing. That's false, it's wrong. The response was for him to mute my microphone in that committee hearing. The response was for the chairman to not even allow the members of the committee to vote on the request for that subpoena. Which brings us to today and this press conference we're having. And I thank you, Senator Serino, and everyone else for participating here to help us get to the bottom of this, because we will not be silenced. We will not be muted. And we are here to stand up for the 13,000 plus individuals that died in nursing homes in New York State. You know, this is a pandemic, the likes of which this country and this world has not seen in 100 years. Did anybody really expect that mistakes would not be made in the handling of this? This is unprecedented territory, uncharted territory. Of course, mistakes were made, and mistakes will continue to be made. They continue to be made in the rollout of the vaccine that we're dealing with. They were made within our nursing homes and our precious senior citizens in this state with the fateful decision of March 25th. And we are here to get to the bottom of that today. And we look forward to the questions from the media, from your attention to this issue. And hopefully the super majorities of both houses of the state legislature actually moving forward with an investigation, and actually perhaps terminating the governor's emergency powers that have existed for 11 months now. Our Republican conference in the Senate has now brought an amendment to the floor 10 times to end the governor's emergency powers, which can be ended with a simple majority resolution of both houses of the legislature. End the governor's emergency powers, get the legislature back in the business of checks and balances and oversight on this out of control executive department, and get to the bottom of what's going on here and actually be in the process of making decisions and discussing decisions